Welcome back to Retirement Coffee Talk with Charisse Rivers at Zinnia Wealth. Online, zinniawealth.com or 833-368-3680. All right, so busy time of the year for you, fourth quarter, and as we move our way through November and into December, that is the time for RMDs. What is an RMD? Charisse, tell me what's going on right now. What is probably the number one thing on your list right now of figuring out? A lot of math going on right now, isn't there?
There really is. RMD, required minimum distributions. If you have a 401k, IRA, 403b, TSP, you name it, anything you saved in a retirement plan, well, when you turned a very special age, you have to pull money out and a certain percentage out. So let's talk about the rules and the nuts and bolts of these required minimum distributions. Because rules have changed over the last few years. So I know you all are talking at the water cooler and some of you are like, well, when do we have to collect this RMD? Is it 70 and a half? Is it 72, 73, 75? And one person at that water cooler is probably saying, oh yeah, it's like 75. And somebody's like, no, you got to take it at 70 and a half, because there's a lot of confusion out there because it's changed so many times over the last few years. So let's start with the basics. What age do you have to take RMDs now based off the Secure Act 2.0 rules? And so if you were born in 1950, hey, listen, you're taking it at age 72. If you were born between 1951 and 1959, you get to take it at 73. And anybody who's taken it over 1960, that would be 75. So if you're born after 1960, you take it at 75. Between 1951 and 1959, you take it at 73, and there you have it. So there are the rules. So share that at the water cooler. I had a client come in asking, okay, I'm confused. Okay, so this is why we're talking about this. RMDs, on top of that, you have to take a percentage out of your retirement accounts, out of all of them, okay? And or what you can do is take the grand total of that number and take it all out of one if you wanted to. I always say, don't take the saddle off the horse that's winning the race. So if you have an exchange traded fund that made 20% this year, you have an annuity that made 10, you had a CD that made 5, pull it from the CD. Let the other stuff continue to grow, right? So the percentage, Randy, that you have to pull out is about 3.78%. Okay. Right. So if you had $1 million, you can calculate that 3.78% pretty easily. There's actually a real divisor number, and we go through that with our clients when they come in, because some people want to know, what bucket should I pull it from, Charisse? And we already kind of have that all dived into. So I will tell you this much, Randy. I was doing a class in the Villages a few days ago, and a lady said, I don't understand this RMD thing. And so we talk about that in our classes. And she was more concerned, like, why do I have to pull this out? And why is the percentage at 3.78%? Because she's turning 73. And she said, and for how long do I have to do this? And you have to do this for the rest of your lives. And one of my charts in the class, it shows, hey, by the time you're in your 80s, you're pulling out 8%. She's like, wait a minute, I have to pull out 8% by the time I'm in my 80s? And I said, yes. So I was doing a tax planning class, and she went, but if my portfolio doubles, that means I'm taking 8% of whatever my portfolio doubles. I'm like, exactly. Like she already beat me to the chase. Mm-hmm. And so let's talk about that. So when you first have to take an RMD, it's under 4%, just by a hair. But as every year you get older, that percentage goes up every year, and it never goes away, and it gets higher and higher and higher. So let's say you're 73 today and you have $1 million. And let's say your money doubles in 10 years. That means, you're being moderately aggressive, right? Moderate zone, depending on our 10-year period, of course. And let's say it doubles to $2 million. If you have to take 8% of $2 million, that's $160,000. Yeah. So I say, well, what if you're married, filing jointly, and you have $50,000 in Social Security? Because if you have $1 million in IRA and retirement accounts, you probably have somewhere around $50,000 in Social Security between two people. So you add the $160,000 and the $50,000, you're at $210,000. You take the write-off with inflation in the future. Guess what? Not only are you paying massive taxes, because taxes are probably going to be sky high then, who really knows, but that's what I'm assuming. But now you got to worry about ugly Irma. your Medicare Part B premium and your prescription drugs, where right now you pay $174 and change a month for your Medicare Part B. Well, guess what? You're going to get all the way to $250, maybe $350 a month for the rest of your life. So it's not just the here and now. And I say that a lot. Right now, things are a little bit easy, but I want you to go out to when we're a little bit older, right? And if you're younger than that, if you say let's say you're not 73, say you're 63, and then you double your money. I mean, it gets worse and it gets worse and gets worse. So this is why so many people are now realizing, oh my gosh, I got IRMA penalties. There's 8 taxes that you might have to pay depending on how high your income gets based on your IRAs. I have a client that's $4 million in their IRA, and we are working so hard to roll these IRAs to Roth because they're really in big trouble because they got a great pension and Social Security and real estate. And so we're moving based on our tax plan about $250,000 a year for that one client for the next 10 years. Oh yeah. The goal is to get at least half of it out for them because they don't want that $4 million to go to $8 million in 15, 20 years if they're super ultra conservative, and then pass it on to the kids and give all that work goes back to Uncle Sam's pocket. No, thank you. So part of our tax planning strategy is to see if we roll over $25,000 a year or $50,000 or $100,000, whatever the number is, whatever your goal is, we're going to show it to you. And how many taxes are hitting you while you're doing it? Does it make sense? Because once in a blue moon, it says, it actually doesn't make sense to roll IRAs to a Roth. Listen, the RMDs never go away. You're always going to have to take it. And when you pass away, if you're married, now your spouse has to take that RMD. And guess what? Their taxes go up, their income goes down. So if we can alleviate that tax pressure for the surviving spouse, which we call the widow's penalty, from a dear friend of mine who's a financial advisor who came up with that wonderful term, to then you got the kiddos penalty where the kids are going to pay an even larger tax bill, 35, 45% based on today's rates, not tomorrow's rates. So we got to be very cautious on that. And I'm going to go ahead and put the myth buster out there because people think when I retire, I'm going to be in a lower tax bracket. Hello, that is not true. That myth buster is a myth, and the average retiree is in a higher tax bracket. And if you happen to be one of the lucky ones where you're not, then we can bet your spouse will be when you pass away because your tax brackets go up and your deductions go down, and now you've lost some income. So RMD planning is more critical and crucial right now than really ever before. And now we might have a good 6 years where taxes stay down, where people can crush it and start really rolling these over at the rate that we sit today, which would be incredible, Randy.
Well, I learned 2 great lessons, retirement lessons, one from my father and one from my father-in-law. From my father, don't buy a boat. Okay, that was a good retirement lesson. Don't buy a boat. It's a hole in the water that you throw money into. Yes, it's very, very true. But from my father-in-law, who every April would scream bloody murder, saying that he had to write a check to the government for $30,000 and $40,000. That was because he had a nice pension, he had Social Security, and he had a nice IRA. And he didn't detax it in his years before retirement. So every year he would scream bloody murder, I've got to write another huge check to the government. I didn't think this would happen to me in retirement. So after all that she has said right there, this is the problem. Let's see if we can figure out the solution. That brings us to the number one thing that people are asking this year when it comes to sitting down with retirement planners. Here is Sharon Epperson from CNBC.
Roth conversion saw a 46% increase year over year in the second quarter of 2024, according to Fidelity. Shifting money from a pre-tax IRA or 401k to a Roth IRA can lower taxable income in retirement and provide tax-free growth.
A record number of people have come to people like Charisse this year and said, I see this on the horizon. How can I fix it? So this idea of having systematic withdrawals out of your IRA or 401k and say, I've got $1 million in there. Can we take $50,000 a year, $75,000 a year, $100,000 a year and pay the taxes on it now so I don't have this problem in the future. Charisse, is this a big part of what you've been doing this year as far as planning is concerned?
It's a huge part. I have been on overload trying to do a ton of tax plans, us and our advisors, as many as we can, as fast as we can when we're doing reviews with clients and new people coming in, because I am worried about taxes in the future, 10 years, 20 years, to the surviving spouses, to the kiddos. There's a lot to talk about. And it's interesting. Our tax planning software, CPAs don't have. So what's so neat about it is that it's some of the first visuals you're ever going to see in your life. I'm telling you, I don't know anybody else who does it like this. We're going to show you, if you do nothing and you stay the course, and let's say taxes stay right where they're at today and they never change, what are the taxes to you? What are the taxes to your surviving spouse? And what are the taxes to your heirs based on the rules today? And then we're going to show you a couple scenarios. What if we rolled 25 a year? What if we rolled 50 a year? What is the benefit? And 9 out of 10 times, Randy, there is an average of 800 to 2 million extra left to the beneficiaries in wealth, and we paid a whole lot less in taxes during the next 30 years and after death to the beneficiaries. It is a huge deal. And most people are probably listening saying, you know, I would like to see that, Charisse. I've talked to my CPA. They're not telling me squatski. They're doing my bookkeeping. They're like, yeah, go ahead and roll $10,000 or $20,000. This is what you'll pay. But it's not just the here and now what you'll pay. I want you to see what it looks like in 10 years, your tax bill, in 20 years and 30 years, and what it looks like to your beneficiaries. And so we have this amazing tax software that does that for us. And we can also talk about in that tax software, do we do donor advised funds? Do we do some of our tax loss harvesting strategies? We do all those things. And here's the funny thing that I never thought was going to happen, Randy. The CPAs are asking us for this because they don't have it. So even if the CPA isn't working with us, a client is finding out, well, CPA wants to see what you're doing because they don't have access to that kind of stuff. Well, I pay a pretty penny for this software, and people are loving it. Our clients, CPAs we've never even heard from, are starting to reach out to us, asking us to run that scenario for their clients. So it's fantastic. And if you haven't rolled an IRA to a Roth yet and you're considering it, it would be worth the free consultation. I have yet to have anybody complain about it. And every single person, except for, I would say, over the last month, 2 for me personally, are rolling IRAs to Roths because taxes are on sale. Take advantage of the sale. When shoes are on sale, I go buy 3 pairs of that same shoe. And so I want to talk about the different ways that you can convert IRAs to Roth, or how you can actually contribute to a Roth IRA, because there's different ways to fund these Roths. And the whole purpose of a Roth, let me just reiterate this. Every dollar in a Roth grows tax-free. Any interest in that Roth, as long as you're 59 and a half and older and you've had it for 5 years, all the interest grows tax-free. Now, look at your 401ks and IRAs. All of your contributions, you have to pay taxes 100% based on your ordinary income taxes. And all the contributions your employer put in, 100%. You're paying taxes on it based on ordinary income rates. So it's all fully taxable to you, your surviving spouse, and your kids. Like, you're wasting money by not rolling these IRAs to a Roth on average. So let's talk about different ways to fund a Roth IRA. The first way would be you can contribute to a Roth IRA, right? You can, at any age, you can contribute to a Roth IRA, but you have to have W-2 wages. You have to be getting paid. So, for example, if you're under 50 and you wanted to contribute a max of $7,000 to a Roth IRA, you have to be at least making $7,000 with your employer. So if you make 10, hey, you can put 7 into Roth. If you only make $5,000 at your employer this year, hey, you can only contribute $5,000. But there's also another rule. If you make too much money, Randy, and you hit these thresholds, then you can't contribute to a Roth. But then that leads me to number 2. If that's you and you can't contribute to a Roth, we like doing backdoor Roth IRAs. And it just means, okay, your income's too high. Uncle Sam says the rules are you can't contribute. But if you put it into an IRA, that's $7,000, a non-deductible IRA, so you won't be able to write it off on your tax bill, then day 2, you can convert it to a Roth. So there you have it. There is a backdoor way into a Roth IRA. So that's the second way you can do it in case your income's too high. The third way to contribute to a Roth IRA is to roll over your IRAs that you have now to a Roth IRA. But what you have to do, this is why we're going to show it to you when you come in and see us, you have to pay the taxes on the rollover, right? So that is the third way to do it. And you can do that in your 30s. We do it for 90-year-olds. You can do it at any age. So those are the three ways. I truly believe the Roth IRAs are the way of the future if you're trying to protect your legacy. If you go back 20 years ago and you had $1 million and you're like, I always just want to live on the interest, I always want to leave this $1 million to my beneficiaries, that was a true thing back in the day, but now it's not, because an average of 35 to 45% of it's going to not go to your beneficiaries now. It's going to go to Uncle Sam because they can no longer stretch those IRAs. So there's more of a reason to start rolling IRAs to a Roth today, and let's figure out at what rate, how much, and then create a plan from there.
So there's 7 tax brackets, 10, 12, 22, 24, 32, 35, and 37. Those apparently are going to stay the same because Donald Trump has designed that, and he'll probably keep that steady. So the secret here then is if you are in the 22% tax bracket and you want to roll money over, convert money over, you want to make sure that you don't get yourself into the next tax bracket, which puts you into a higher tax liability.
Well, I beg to differ on that comment.
All right, let's talk about it.
Because to roll and hit that number, let's say, I don't want to do the math on radio, but let's say you just roll enough to hit that 22% tax bracket. But you really deep down inside, gosh, I got to do more work. I got to do this faster. I do want to roll more. Randy, it's only 2 pennies more. That's the way to look at it. It's only 2% more. So take advantage of that next tax bracket.
Okay. All right.
22 to 24% to me makes sense. So a lot of people have this thing in their head like, okay, we'll roll just enough over so we don't go over that 22% tax bracket. But why? Why can't we go to 24%? It's only 2% more.
All right. So in that instance, I get it. What if you're going from 24 to 32 or from 24 to 35?
So that's where it changes,
okay.
Right?
All right.
So that's where I switched gears. I said, okay, listen, we can do this much at the 24% tax bracket, but if we do this much more, now we start to get at a higher level. We got to worry about other taxes that come into the picture. Is it worth it? And sometimes it's not. And sometimes for people who have millions of IRAs, it is absolutely worth it. So, and the worth is in the eyes of the beholder, right?
Yeah.
So you also have to believe that to be true. But we're going to show you the math, and we'll show you whether it's at the 12% or the 22 or the 24 or so on and so forth. We're going to show it to you, and you get to decide. And we have such a beautiful, easy way in one page to show this to you.
Well, we have a saying around here that we say every single show and every single commercial, and that is, let's do the math on your retirement. And this is a prime example of where the math comes in. Give us a call. Give us a look on our website. Schedule that complimentary retirement consultation. Yes, we are certainly going to talk about your investments, but let's talk about taxes. It's one of the most neglected parts of retirement planning, but not at Zinnia Wealth. Give us a look at our website, zinniawealth.com, ZINNIA wealth.com. Hit the gold box there. It says complimentary retirement consultation. We'll ask you to put in a little information so our team will reach out to you. Or just bypass all that, give us a call, 833-368-3680. Again, 833-368-3680. We'll sit down and have a conversation about your retirement and get the pencil and paper going, and let's do some math to find out exactly what your income's going to be and what your tax liability is going to be, and how can we help. Again, 833-368-3680.
Thanks for listening to the Retirement Coffee Talk podcast. If you have questions or would like to begin the process of building a tailored retirement plan, call Zinnia Wealth at 833-368-3680 or find us online at zinniawealth.com.
Investment advisory services offered through Zinnia Wealth Advisory, LLC, a registered investment advisor. The firm only conducts business in states where it is properly registered or is excluded from registration requirements. Registration is not an endorsement of the firm by securities regulators and does not mean the advisor has achieved a specific level of skill or ability. Insurance products are offered through Zinnia Wealth Management, LLC, Florida license L078655, and Charisse Rivers, Florida license P037744. Zinnia Wealth Advisory, LLC, and Zinnia Wealth Management, LLC are affiliated entities. The information presented is believed to be current. It should not be viewed as personalized investment advice. All expressions of opinion reflect the judgment of the presenter on the date of the podcast and are subject to change. The information presented is not an offer to buy or sell or a solicitation of any offer to buy or sell any of the securities discussed. You should consult with a professional advisor before implementing any of the strategies discussed. Any legal or tax information provided in this podcast is general in nature. Always consult an attorney or tax professional regarding your specific legal or tax situation. Any client experience discussed on this show are unique to that client. Annuity and life insurance guarantees are subject to the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. If you withdraw money from or surrender your contract within a certain time after investing, the insurance company may assess a surrender charge. Withdrawals may be subject to tax penalties and income taxes. Persons selling annuities or other insurance products receive compensation for these transactions. These commissions are separate and distinct from fees charged for advisory services. Insurance products also contain additional fees and expenses. Social Security rules and regulations are subject to change at any time. Always consult with your local Social Security office before acting upon any information provided herein. References to specific investments should not be construed as being past specific recommendations. The returns for various indices discussed in this podcast do not represent the performance of the firm or any of its advisory clients. Returns do not reflect the impact that advisory fees will have on an investment. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. All investment strategies have potential for profit or loss. Different types of investments involve higher and lower levels of risk. There is no guarantee that a specific investment strategy will be suitable or profitable for an investor's portfolio. Historical performance returns for investment indexes and/or categories usually do not deduct transaction and/or custodial charges or advisory fees, which would decrease historical performance results. There are no guarantees that a portfolio will match or outperform a specific benchmark. Investments in fixed income products are subject to liquidity risk, market risk, index rate risk, credit risk, inflation risk, purchasing power risk, and taxation risk. Because bond prices fluctuate continually, their yields change constantly.